Alright, well, this presentation is going to be a lot of what you've already heard. So, for the first question, the nature of the soul and the mind, I looked at Freud, and who can tell me what Freud's three components of the mind were?
The ego.
What was that, Amber? Yes, the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is the unconscious source of impulses and drives. The ego is, it gets its energy from the id. It's an instrument of reason and sanity, a lot like a conscience. And the ego incorporates morality and ethics. With the soul, I said it's very similar to the id. It's non-physical, but it's a natural part of humans. The underlying factor in our actions, so basic desires. And it's different from the mind because the soul is a natural part where the mind is developed and influenced throughout growing up and learning and social development. Freud also explained the connection between the soul and the mind. The soul energizes and drives the mind. The mind provides direction, and the body and the brain follow those directions and carry out the actions. Human nature at birth. As Libby said, we're born with a sinful nature. In Romans 5:12, it says, "Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, Adam, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned." And in the same book, chapter 3, verse 23, it says, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God." So we're all sinners, we're all born into that. Genes can also have a huge influence on our personality, such as responses to adversity. People's parents' temperament is often passed on through birth. But genes are not the only thing that influence personality. Environment has a huge role in that. There are twin studies, and I watched a YouTube video called "Twins, Is It All in the Genes?" It was very interesting. I'd suggest you watch that if you're interested in it. Identical twins were separated at birth, and so a researcher went to them after they reconnected and gained a personal relationship, and she wanted to see how they were similar and different in personality. And there was support for both nature and nurture in development of personality. David Perkins defines intelligence as a combination of the ability to learn, pose problems, including transforming situations into more clearly defined problems, and solving problems. Intelligence functions as a tool humans use to navigate through life. We use it to benefit us and to function in everyday occurrences. And as Mariah brought up earlier, Alfred Binet, he spent a good portion of his life studying the development of cognition. However, he noticed that there were differences in mental abilities that separated the normal child from the abnormal. So he went on to find a way to measure these differences, and he developed various tests. These included association tests, sentence completion tests, memory tests, and tests of moral judgment. And then Louis William Stern went on to form his version of these tests, and which is what is most popularly used today, which is the IQ test. And I agree whenever they say that it's not the best way to measure intelligence because it's pretty much only giving one aspect of measurement. There are a lot of different definitions of what mental illness is. I agree with this one. It is a wide range of mental health conditions and disorders that affect your thinking, mood, and behavior. I think that goes along with what Binet was saying about the normal and abnormal children's mental abilities. As Daisha brought up earlier, Kendra Cherry just defined the function of psychology as a way to describe, understand, predict and change or influence behavior. Describing the behavior will give insight to what is healthy and unhealthy. Explaining the behavior clarifies and categorizes each action. Predicting the behavior can help to understand how people think and act, and will be helpful whenever determining what's going to happen in the future. And lastly, changing behavior is necessary whenever the behavior is harmful or damaging. That's all I have.
Can you go back to mental illness?
Which one?
Mental illness.
Can you tell us again what your idea of what the soul and the mind and the physical body, the relationship with those?
Yes.
Not what they said.
Well, I believe the soul is unconscious. It's spiritual and not physical, unlike the brain, which is physical and developed through time. And I think it takes all three in order to function properly in everyday life.
So go ahead.
The brain depends on the soul. The brain and the mind depend on the soul and its natural desires. The brain then, I think, it gets developed and you learn more about what's morally right, and that gives us guidance to which the best actions are to take.
Where does the soul live?
In the body.
Where?
Can't answer that one.
You don't know?
I don't.
You don't have an opinion?
I think it's all throughout our body.
It's an interesting question, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, good job.